Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool jukebox repair video for you. We've been working on this 1964 Rowe AMI Tropicana jukebox. I believe it's the JBM. We'll look here in a minute to make sure. And we did a video where we worked on the selector, the keyboard there. We did a video where we worked on the gripper bow, or the transfer arm. And also this solenoid here that selects A and B. And we are now up to the part where we need to work on the amp. So this thing plays and selects and then hangs the record back up. It's got all of that going for it, but the amp we haven't even tested yet because it's been sitting for years. So this was one of the last tube amps that AMI put out, so it still has tubes. And like I said, it was 1964. So I don't know when the last time it was serviced is or was. And I have no doubt that the thing doesn't work right. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, though, just for the video, I'm going to turn it on with the amp plugged in. We've got it unplugged right now. I'm going to turn it on with the amp plugged in just so you can see kind of what they sound like whenever they're not acting right. Okay. The best advice, though, is if the thing's old and you know it's not going to work right, don't even turn it on till it's serviced, because the potential of you damaging something is pretty high. Burn up resistors. There's a little bit of, I believe there's some transistors and stuff in there too. You're going to, well, I know there is. You're going to cause more problems, plugging the thing in whenever there's no real reason for you to plug it in if you know that it's not going to play right. But I think most people, they're not going to be able to resist at least trying it to see if the amp works. So I realize that most people are going to, in fact, plug it in. Just do it for a little while, though, okay? You don't want to let that thing sit there for 20 minutes. It's going to cook some stuff. But we're going to do it on this video, just so you can see kind of what you're starting with. So let's look at this one. There's a door on the back that you can lower to get to the preamp and the regular amp. Okay, so there's a little door that pops down on this particular model. This is the JBM model. But most of them are going to be similar of this vintage. It's the R2620 amp, I guess. And I believe that's the preamp over there, and this is considered the main amp. I may be wrong about that, but I think that's what we've got going on here. Which I kind of like, because that way I can work on it half and half. What do you think? And, of course, all the old tubes are filthy. This thing has been sitting forever. Now, who knows if any of these tubes are good? I have a little issue with testing the tubes. I don't have a tube tester. Now, you can get the little, when I say tube tester, most people that were around back in the day and worked on these, you remember the little box with a light on it, and you plug the tube into it, and if the light comes on, it's good or whatever. That's not really a tube tester. That's a short tester. It's basically testing like the filament in the tube or something. It's not really testing if the tube is any good. So I don't really have a way to check all of these. If you want to properly test a tube, you need this real expensive equipment that tests loads and voltages and stuff on it. And it's just not practical for me to get one whenever I only do a little bit of this tube amp repair. Now, even if you do get one, the thing needs to be calibrated. They're very expensive. It's just not really a good option. One of your other options is you could just buy all new tubes. It's not crazy expensive. There may be some of these that are more expensive than others, but so that's going to be our weakness. If the tubes are bad, I'm not really going to have a way of knowing that. I do have a bunch of tubes, but I don't know if I have these particular ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug it in, and then we'll turn it on, and I'll show you what it sounds like. I don't believe it's going to work, though, but we'll try it. Okay. So the way this one is plugged in is there's just a little extension cord here, like a little power cord. And that sends power to over here, which sends power again through this weird power connector over to the preamp. The actual stylus, the tone arm, is plugged in down there. Okay, so let me power this up. Okay, we're going to turn it on and look for explosions. Might get some hum here. Yep. We're loud, people. Again, not necessarily the best thing to do, but we're going to do it just to illustrate. Okay, let's see what record we've got that we can try. There's one in N8. If I can hold them both down. Not easily. Okay. So there is a stylus. I've got nothing. Major problems with the amplifier, okay? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me that we have major problems with our amplifier or our preamplifier, or probably both? Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, just to help us troubleshoot a little bit, the tone arm plugs in up here. Phono input, left channel, right channel. Well, we don't really know how much of that problem is the actual tone arm and how much of that problem is the amps. Now, I imagine it's all the amps, but just to make sure that it's not just a really bad tone arm problem, we're going to unplug that, and then I'm going to plug something in on those jacks. Those are basically just RCA jacks, so you can plug anything that you have that creates sound on RCA jacks into that. And we've got a video game store here that we own, so I've got some of those little things that plug into the TV, and I'm going to go get one of those, and we'll use it to test the audio. Okay, so I've got it playing a record right now so that it's not trying to mute it. It mutes it between records. I've got this little toy plugged into it. Getting nothing on the left channel and nothing on the right channel. So, got serious issues with the amp and the preamp. Okay. We'll hang her up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out, and we'll look at it on the bench. Okay, folks, so they're calling it not the preamp, but the stereo control amplifier. So we're going to take a look at this first. We're going to have to order some parts and get them in. Now, we're in South Carolina, so we usually order stuff from Newark, and it gets here within a day or two, so it's not too big of a deal. I'll edit it into the video. Don't worry, you won't have to wait a day or two. But luckily, we have our schematics here. Now, this is for the Diplomat, which was the year before, I believe. This is the Tropicana. So this is the JAN. Ours is the JBM. A in 63, B in 64, I believe. I may have that all wrong. Maybe I'm backwards. Maybe ours was the year before this. Yeah, I think ours was the year before this. So ours was the M. This is the N, J-A-N. Ours was the JBM. Okay, so anyway. So this is what we're looking at. They kind of illustrate it for you. And then it's going to tell you a lot of the parts. So what we're going to do is we're going to order a lot of these caps that need replaced. Now the ceramic ones we don't have to worry about. we'll check out the Mylar, see what those look like. But we'll see what we need to order. And then the resistors, you kind of want to go through and check. So some of them overheat, burn up. We're going to clean the tubes and put them back in. And then if we don't see any, I need to get something that I can at least test for shorts and stuff. But if we find any problem areas, like if we find a resistor that's all screwed up, then you know that, hey, let's look on the schematic, see what that's near, and we can check out the things around that and see why it's causing that, right? But we may end up, just ordering new tubes and stuff too. So we'll see. But I could just send this out and have it rebuilt. But if I keep doing that, I'm never going to learn how to fix them myself, right? So I've got to eventually start breaking them apart and working on them myself. We're going to check the power amplifier. We're going to check the transformers and see if there's any shorts on those. That's the problem. If you've got a shorted transformer, you're screwed. But we'll work through it a little bit. So let me pop the back off of this and see if it seems to line up with the schematics that I've got. Okay, folks, so it's all original. Nothing has been changed. So what I'm doing is I'm making a list of the capacitors that need replaced. Like, look at this. Ugh. You don't necessarily have to worry about the disc ones, but the wax ones need to go. These are just little electrolytics even. And so I've made a list of all of the ones that are in it. There's not many. And then I'm going around and I'm checking the resistors. A lot of them you can check in circuit just where they are. And I came across one here that is a 1 meg resistor that tested shorted. Now, if you know about resistors, they usually don't short. And so when I looked, I cut it loose just to make sure. When I looked, the pin on that socket was touching the pin next to it. So that was probably causing all kinds of freaking problems. So I've got some schematics here I've been looking at. And it is the 7025 socket. I removed the tube just to make sure that the tube wasn't shorted together inside or something. So this is the area that we're talking of. It's this 1 meg resistor here on pin 7. See how pin 8 is right next to it. It was just touching. Literally, the thing was just bent over, touching the socket. Now, I don't know, maybe I did that after I took it out, but that could have been a big problem. So I'm going around and I'm checking the resistors. I've got my handy little chart here. Look at this. Now, I know most of you have it memorized, but I like to look at the chart just to make sure I'm doing it right. And what you'll find a lot of times is a lot of these resistors, after they're 60 years old, have drifted out of spec. So if you get one that's way off, you need to replace it. Now, if it's pretty close, you can use your own discretion. But it'll tell you, like, if it's got a silver band, it should be within 10%. If you got one that's like 22% off, just replace it. They're cheap anyway, And if you're going to be ordering capacitors, wherever you order capacitors from, you can order resistors for a penny. So it's not that big of a deal. It's a little more work to replace it. So I'm going around and I'm finding the ones that are wildly out of spec and writing them down too. And then I'll put together a little order and we'll get some stuff in. But finding that one that was touching, that very well may have been a huge problem. But it probably would have only messed up one channel. The other channel would have probably still worked. But come on. Come on, people, that ain't going to work. Come on, people. Let me show you something else, too. Packaged electronic circuit. That is a packaged electronic circuit. Who knows what's inside of it? Probably diodes or resistors or something. Hope none of them are bad. But I don't even know what's supposed to be in them. I guess on the schematics maybe it shows you. I don't know. It's another thing to think about. All right, so I'm going to keep working through my resistors and make a list of all of the ones that I think need a little help. Okay, folks, so I finished up my list for the control amp. And now we're up to the regular power amp, which is the more traditional amplifier. I believe you could probably use just this. You probably only need the other part. Well, I don't know. I was going to say maybe you only need the other part if it's in an actual jukebox, but who knows. So, same situation. I'm going to go through and make a list. I'm going to see if maybe I can check the transformers with a multimeter and see if any of them are shorted. There's 3 transformers, so maybe we can look at the schematics and figure out a way to test across the primaries or something. Okay, so looks like it's actually around the same amount of components that were in the other part. Of course, it's not powered up. I'm not powering it up. Boy, there's a lot of dust in there, though. It appeared to me that this has never been removed from the machine whenever I was taking it loose. Interesting. Okay, so let me start looking through it, and if I'm running anything strange, I'll come back. Okay, so I've worked through it a little bit, just testing stuff. Let me show you kind of what I did. On this one, I didn't have as many resistors that were way out of spec. On both parts, there were no resistors that were like way out of spec. But there were a lot of them that were like, they're supposed to be 3,300 ohms, and they're 3,900 ohms. And it's a 10% resistor. So really, it should be like 3630 at the top, you know, but it's 39. So you can tell it hasn't really burnt up or anything. It's just it's old and it's drifted. So instead of it being like 10% off, maybe it's 20% off. You know, and that's a little, it's kind of borderline, but if they're that far off, you probably ought to replace them. So after they're like more than 10% off, and they're marked with the tolerance band, you know. But I didn't have any that were supposed to be 4 ohms, and now it's, you know, 2 megs because it's burned up. It's nothing like that. They're all just, they've drifted a little bit, or they were never all that close to begin with. But, you know. And I'm measuring them in circuit, which can cause you a little bit of problems. I found 2 on this one that in circuit you could tell that they were you know, they were supposed to be 100K or whatever, but in circuit they were 200. They were, you know, 2.5K. Right? So you would think, oh, that resistor shorted. Well, resistors don't usually short, and it's in circuit. So there's something else in that part of the circuit that's making it test lower. Now, here's one thing you can do that I do a lot on pinball machines and arcade games and stuff. This is a stereo amp, so if there's a reading over here that's weird, all you got to do is go find the one on the other side and see if it's weird too. So both of them got pretty much matched. So it's just in circuit, that's what they measure. And you can, of course, take it out of circuit and measure it again. But if nothing's damaged, you're probably looking at, it's fine, right? If nothing looks damaged. So I couldn't find any resistors. I found a few that were out of spec, but I couldn't find any resistors that were completely burnt up. Tubes we don't know about yet, of course. And then something that you kind of need to do is you want to check out your I think this is called the audio. It may be called the audio input output transformer. I think it's just the audio output transformer. Again, I am not an expert. Don't listen to a thing I say. We're just here for entertainment purposes, okay? But what happens to these a lot is that the transformer gets burned up. Why? Because you're running the thing with bad caps and bad tubes and all of that, right? Which is why I didn't really want to turn it on earlier. So on the transformers, you have the primary side where the voltage comes in. So this is coming from the amp, right? And then you have the secondary side where the voltage is going out. So this goes out to the speakers, right? So it's usually the primary that burns up, I believe. The secondary could too, I guess, but usually it's the primary. And I've dealt with transformers and other things, right? So you can actually measure this if you can find these wires down there. So on this particular one of the sockets for one of the tubes, pin 9, is connected through a 10 ohm resistor to the black wire at one end of the primary, and then pin 9 on the other socket is connected to the brown wire. So if you measure between here and this resistor, you get about 190 ohms. Now, is that what it's supposed to be? If only I had another one that I could check. How would I know if it's supposed to be 190 ohms? It's not marked on the schematics. Oh, wait a minute, there's a whole other channel. So if you do the same thing on the other side and check from here to here, it's also around 190 ohms. So one of them's this one and one of them's that one. They both test about the same, people. So either they're both fried or they're both good. I don't know. Now, another thing you can do is test resistance between either one of those wires and ground. Because as you can see, there's no connection to ground. It shouldn't be grounded. Right? Now, when I get that, I get a real high resistance to ground. So it's like 2 megs to ground. Let's make sure that that one line doesn't go over and do something funky. Okay. Yeah. So see the line, this is like a center tap. And it does go up here and across here. And it connects through a capacitor to ground. But, you know, it's basically through one of the big can capacitors on it. So I'm getting like 1.3 megs. That's fine. And then when you test it on the other one, same. So I don't believe either one of those is shorted to ground or burnt up. So we might get lucky. We may get lucky. Okay, so I'm going to order our parts and wait for them to come in. And then we'll slowly start putting them in. And I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet and get something to test these tubes with. Why not? Heck, let's just do it. Let's get a tube tester. Now, I'm not going to get a big, crazy expensive one, but I got to get something that'll test these a little bit. Maybe a little emission tester or something. Like, look at that one. You think that works? I don't know, man. I don't know, man. That's kind of, I don't know about that one. But I hate to just buy all new tubes. These might be fine. And they might sound better than the new ones. I don't know. How would I know? I need a tester. Don't you understand? I have to spend money. I got to do it. I don't know why you're trying to talk me out of it. So we all agree now that I have to buy one. All right. So let me order the stuff, and whenever it comes in, we'll start putting it in. So hopefully on the next part of the video, you'll see a nice big cardboard box full of crap. Did you expect anything less, people? Look, it's a cardboard box full of stuff. Yeah, I got my stuff in. All right. So I'm going to carefully take the tubes out so I don't break anything. And then I'm going to take the bottom back off, and we'll do this one first. Basically, we're testing resistors. If one's out of spec, put in a replacement resistor and replace capacitors. But get this. I have a capacitance meter. I'm going to check the caps that I take out and see if they really are bad. Just to make it interesting. So I'm going to start swapping some stuff out, and then we'll check some caps and see what we come up with. All right, folks, so I'm starting to swap them out. Now, look at this. Look what we got in the mail. There's a letter involved. It says, "With all respect to your fluke, they are awesome. Here is a meter with a capacitor checker. TRX Lab channel reviewed and liked this model. Take care and enjoy, from viewer Neil H." Well, Neil H, thank you very much. You know what? We don't have a capacitor checker. And you know what I could actually use? A capacitor checker. So you messed around and sent me something that I actually needed. I appreciate it. If y'all don't know, people send us little stuff like that all the time. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Neil. That's awesome. Because I have an instant thing. We got this in about a week ago, and then I instantly started working on this jukebox and thought, you know what? It'd be neat to know if any of those caps are good or not. I think it may save me a little bit of time on this one, and I'll show you why here in a second. So we appreciate it. Yeah, this thing does look pretty good. Kaiwits. One of the things that goes on whenever you make channels and you get a bunch of followers. Now, I'm not talking about the other channel. I don't know anything about them, and don't take this as me saying anything bad about anybody. But we actually had these people email us, Kaiwits, and they wanted us to review one of their meters. Now, I don't have any problem with that, but it's just, I like doing things whenever it like kind of seamlessly fits into our videos. But yeah, we get people wanting us to review stuff all the time. So I did consider reviewing their meter, but another thing is I don't really like negative reviews. Like I don't really like saying, well, I wish the button was a little different. I hate that crap. It drives me nuts. So I'm not a good reviewer because I don't want to say anything bad about them. Right? So the review thing's just not really for me. But in a roundabout way, we ended up getting one of them anyway. So we appreciate Neil sending us this. I think we'll definitely be able to use it. And I have no doubt that it's probably a nice little thing. So I have never actually owned a capacitance meter, but we're going to use it now. What do you think? Let's see if this will sit. If I can get this to sit here where you can watch as we check. Oh, look at that. Can you see it? I think you can see it. Now, other channels would have figured this out before they started filming it. Okie dokie. So, we're going to do this one first. It's a big hunkin' 2.5 microfarad. You know, before we do that, let me do this. So it's a 2.5. This is a brand new 2.2. Okay? Let's put Neil's capacitance meter to the test. Now I'm going to hold it with my hands, which might screw up the reading a little bit. Let's see if it does. Let's see if my skin screws up the capacitance reading at all. 2.107 on a brand new 2.2. Now I'm going to try to do it without touching both leads. Hold on a second. Okay. Yeah, so it's giving me 2.1. That's probably right. This is probably a cheap cap. Let's try a 10. 10 microfarad, 250 volts. Brand new one. .8, 9.9, something like that. Okay? So the thing's pretty accurate. It's at least in the ballpark, don't you think? So we're going to try this 2.5. Now this thing is from 1962. See the date code? 3162. So testing a wax capacitor from 1962. We get, it takes it a second to come through. Bup, 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 bup. 10. So 10 microfarad instead of 2.5. So that ain't good. That ain't even close. Now we also have these little capacitors. This is not wax. This is like, it's more like a ceramic or something. I don't know what that's made out of. But this is supposed to be a 0.03, 10%. So 3/100ths of a microfarad and 10%. So 33 or 27/100ths. It's going up. I don't know if that's the cap though or my fingers because I'm touching both of them. Let me redo it. This one has the leads. The cap has the leads cut off. Let's try it a little better. There we go. There's our reading. 31 nanofarads, which is 0.031. So in other words, this thing is from also the 60s, and it's dead on the money. So this type we probably don't have to replace, and that's the Sprague. That's a good brand name in it, or is it just a brand name I've heard of? So that's what we're doing. So the one is way off, but come on people, you can just look at it and tell that's off. Look at it, it looks like a damn candle. Cool. All right, so we updated that one. Let's pull some more out. By the way, the actual power amp can sit flat because the transformers make a pretty solid base where you don't have to worry about breaking the tubes if you're careful. All right, so I'm going to go back through following my list and swap out the caps as I go, and we'll see what we run into in here. But I'm going to try to test some of them beforehand because, you know, we just ran into this same issue where perhaps the ones I'm taking out are better than the ones I'm putting in. So I'm going to test them as I go with the capacitance meter and swap what is necessary. Okay, so I'm just going through and replacing them one by one. A lot of times it's really easy because you've got a little strip here where, you know, you can cut off the old one and put the new one right back where the old one was. You have to be careful to watch polarity though, you know. But sometimes you have to wing it a little bit. So like these are the can capacitors. Up on the top it's just a big can, and there's 3 different capacitors built into this one, for instance. So it's a 30 UF, 30 UF, and 30 UF. It's labeled on the side of the can, and it has a little diagram to show you which wire is what. If you look really close, it shows you which, there's a little symbol by the things that show you which one on the legend on the can that is. But it's a little bit tricky because this capacitor here, so basically this is the positive leg of the cap, and the negative leg is the ground, which is basically attached to the plate, right? So you can solder the negative leg of a cap here, and then you have to take both of these resistor legs and solder to the positive leg of the cap that you're putting in to replace it with. And so you kind of run into a problem where you don't have enough space to put everything. You can take the can off and hollow it out. Sometimes you can find a replacement for the can that's the same exact capacitance. You know, that's a little rare. So I usually just try to put them here in the way, but then you have to make sure that none of the legs are going to bend over and touch the wrong place. That can cause you lots of problems. For instance, if this wire were to touch this wire on this resistor, you'd short 2 things out and blow something up, you know. So you got to be careful how you do it, and you got to make sure that everything stays the same. So these 2 resistors have to connect to your new cap, which then has to connect to ground somewhere. And then this cap needs a wire and a resistor connected to it. And then there is yet another resistor connected to it. And then over here, you've got 2 wires and a resistor. So you have to keep all of that doing the same exact thing as you put the new caps in. So it just takes a little bit of trial and error to make sure everything's fitting in there properly and won't short out after it's moved around a little bit. So got a few of them swapped out. We'll swap out some more. Okay, folks, so I got the cap swapped out. A few of the resistors, mainly in that one. The ones over here were more in spec. Okay. And then I was able to test the tubes. And I'm going to do an entire other video about that, but we bought a tube tester, and we were able to test those. I would just put it in this video, but I want to show you the whole thing and do the whole shebang and make it a big deal, because it's a big deal to me. Okay, so we'll do that on a separate video. All of the tubes tested fine except for 3 of them. So in other words, none of the tubes tested fine except for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. So there were 9 good ones and 3 bad ones, which would definitely cause problems, right? So I've got it all together, put it all back in, and now I guess we're going to turn it on and see if anything burns up. So here we go. Nothing exploded immediately. Do you see any smoke from either amp? Oh, I'm starting to see some glow in this one. I don't know. Looks pretty good. Now, you heard it before. Should I glow down in there? We still might clean these amps up a little bit better too. We still have to clean up the bottom of the machine, but you know, we're still in the testing phase, folks. So the 3 tubes that were bad were, there were 2 12 AX7s on the control amp over there. And then there was a 12 AU7. No, 12 AT7. So ECC 83 and ECC 81 to you Europeans. And by the way, when I say that, I say it with nothing but love. We love our Europeans. Okay, I'm just checking to see if anything looks like it's catching on fire. Everything looks cool. We're good. Now, why would something catch on fire? Because I screwed up. That's why. So if I screwed something up and shorted something, maybe it would, right? So I have another surprise. I have found, I'm not going to show it right now. Let's see. Okay, let's try that. I have found some records that I believe I can play without having it knocked off YouTube. What do you think about that? Should we go turn the light? Let's turn the lights off, people, so we can test it. We got crap all on the floor. Look at this. Look at it's like Game Gear. Look at all this stuff everywhere. Maybe if now we turn the light. Maybe if we go this way, it'd be easier to get back. Over here to the jukebox. It's over. I think it's in this corner. Don't hit nothing. Don't step on anything. Okay, we made it back. All right. You know what? It's nighttime. Let's turn it up. To hell with the neighbors. Now with the lights out, boy, you can see those tubes glowing. Now, glowing tubes does not mean that they're working. It's just a byproduct of the tube. They happen to glow. That's all it means, people. So we're going to try one. I have no clue if it's going to work. Let's see if I can... Gonna have to go down low, folks. Okay. It's probably going to be loud if it plays. I heard a pop. So I'm going to fill it full of rock and roll, but YouTube won't let you play that without getting a copyright strike. But I think they'll let me play this. Got a skip in it here in a minute. Let's try another one. Let's try another one. What do you think? Yeah, so YouTube, you know, I'm going to fill it full of rock and roll, but if I play it playing, you know, a freaking Chuck Berry song or something, YouTube gets all upset. But I don't think they know what this is. I found some special records that no one knows about on YouTube. I don't know, I think that amp sounds pretty good. Alright folks, so there you go. I am going to do a whole other video, like I said, about the tubes and the tube tester. So we'll do a whole other video about the tubes and the tube tester, and we'll play it some more on that. But I hope you enjoyed it so far. I think we've about got her up and running. I need to clean it some more and do some more cosmetic stuff. Put all of the records in it, of course. But yeah, she's really starting to look a lot better. All of this too is just in the wrong spot. That'll look a lot better whenever we get done. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film all this for you. We didn't have to invite you into our showroom here, people, when we're working on our jukebox. We were just doing that because we care about you. So leave your comments below. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to help our channel, you can use our links to Amazon if you're going to make any purchases on Amazon. So there's a link down below. Click it. It takes you to Amazon. If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, after you click our link, it gives us a tip for sending you there, because that's an advertisement, right? And last but not least, make sure to check out my brother Donnie. We work on old pinball machines, arcade games, and jukeboxes. My brother Donnie works on old vehicles, things like that. I'm over there on his channel a lot. Go check it out. The link is down below. This is a Rowe AMI Tropicana jukebox, now with working tube amp.